Hi there, I'm Ranil. I'm the creator behind the channel Mr. Inspirational, and today I wanted to talk about the subject of suicide. Life can be a very hard thing, isn't it? I don't know what you're going through right now or what you're struggling with, but of course we all have bad times. However, sometimes bad times become unbearable, and once they become unbearable, we become unable to see the positive in life, perhaps in anything. We don't see any point to it any longer. You might want to give up. You might want to end it all and just get it over with. Perhaps you're in that spot. Well, I want to tell you a story based on my own life that perhaps might change your mind or it may not. But I still wanted to share it anyway for those out there that are suffering with this intense pain that is on a soul level. When I was in my teenage years, I went through a period of depression where I felt totally lost. I can't really describe it, but it was a feeling where I just didn't understand what the point was behind my existence. I didn't understand how I fit into this picture called life. I didn't understand what to do with it. And even though I had hobbies and things that I enjoyed doing, of course, it still didn't seem like it was worth my time. And so through a period of my life there, I felt really like I wanted to actually end it all. And it's no joke. I felt like what's the point? Depression, every day I would wake up and never feel happy. It seemed like everything seemed so bleak and empty and meaningless to me personally that there really is not a lot that you can do from such a state of mind. Well, that was also a period in my life where, because of how I felt, I have a bunch of scars over my body because I did pretty much hurt myself out of frustration to feel something, which is a pattern that many people actually out there go through, and it's another taboo subject to talk about that, but you know, I'm not ashamed of that. It's part of my past. It actually led me on the path that I'm now on, trying to help humanity and show them that they can still create a good life for themselves, that they can still find hope for their futures. But you know, all that stuff with cutting myself and hurting myself, which is part of the frustration of sort of feeling like I wanted to end it, but not yet entirely, so instead I just did another bad thing, which was again hurting myself. I have heard people sometimes get a little freaked out with that poster going on the wall. I can't help it, man. I'm pretty interested in horror themed stuff when I write fictional stuff, you know, but that's kind of not the point right now. Anyways, as time ticked on, when I reached, I guess I was 14 and 15 during the years that I specifically felt very bad emotionally. When I was 16, I discovered a new passion for myself that I could sort of express my emotions through. So in my case, that was music, but at the same time, I also wanted to make film. I had this dream of making films, and for some reason, it gave me renewed hope for my life, to sort of snap out of this spiral that was going downwards and that would potentially end up in me not even being here, and you would have never seen this video if that was the case. Now that's an important point, that concept of finding hope for your future again, because right now life might feel unbearable and you don't know what to do. You can't see a way out of it other than by ending it all, and to a certain extent you might find freedom through that act if you were gone. But at the same time, there's another point that we shouldn't forget, and that is also the things that we would leave behind. I mean, usually we tend to want to be good people in life. We don't want to necessarily hurt anyone. And I'm assuming that you don't necessarily want to hurt other people either. But you yourself are in deep pain. So that's why you feel like you want to take drastic measures to end that pain. Which makes sense, because nobody wants to be in pain. But you know, over the years, the strange part is that as my suicidal tendencies are lifted in my teenage years, somebody else in my family grew them at a rapid rate, and that person was my mother. It was in the summer of 2006, just before I would have gone to college, that she had a breakdown of a intensity that I've never seen a person ever have in my entire life, ever since. And before that, I've never seen that either. What literally happened was that she broke down with such intensity mentally and emotionally that she doesn't even seem like she was my mother any longer. It became a totally different person, like literally. Like that is being on the verge of complete extreme depression, first and foremost. However, for her, sadly, that grew into suicidal tendencies. So for a long time she tried to take her life, and that was something that was very difficult for me at that age, because I was just about turning 17 at the time, and that's not an easy situation to be in, generally speaking, no matter your age. So in your case, another important thing to remember is that there's a lot more to you that meets the eyes. There's more going on for you that could work to your advantage than you might realize at this moment in time. And sadly, not everybody is able to figure that out in time, that there's still hope for them if they would just but figure out where to find it and how to find it for themselves again, right? Well, that's what I dedicate my channel to, through my videos, to give people some idea on how they can create a better life for themselves, no matter how bad anything has gotten so far up until this point. So if you have an open mind, I would suggest you watch some of my other videos after this one, because maybe you'll pick something up from them that can help you out. And you know, it's all for free, so you can watch everything for free on my channel. I don't need to get paid for it, and that way hopefully it can help you somehow, some way. But let's go back to the story of my mother. As the years went by, throughout 2007, she did a couple of suicide attempts, and she always ended up in the hospital, and afterwards she would be taken to a psych ward because they wanted to evaluate her mental state, because it was clearly not, you know, operating in the right manner any longer. So that went on for pretty much the entire year of 2007. And then at the end of that year, I remember it was during New Year's, when the year turned from 2007 to 2008, that I was with her. And you know, she told me that life would become better from now on, because she sort of got a grip on her depression and suicidal tendencies, as she claimed. But what happened eventually that I didn't know was that it wasn't the truth. Because after a few months, in February of that year, when I just moved on my own, I was 18 at the time, so I just moved on my own, and I got the news that she took her life. Now that was a pretty big shock for me, because this time it wasn't an attempt that she still came back from. No, this time it was over. It was done. There was no way back for her back to, you know, to this life. Her body was dead. She was gone. Her spirit moved out of it. Though I can reason now, years later, that I'm sure she found the peace that she was seeking so desperately in life. But sadly, she was also trying to get help for it, you know? And that's the thing. Right now, you might be in a position that you're trying to get help, perhaps because the help isn't, you know, helping you. It's supposed to help you, right? But sometimes it just doesn't help. It's not enough to just talk to a psychologist or psychiatrist or to take the medication to numb your mind from the pain, because that's not really what's going to get rid of the cause. I think the issue we're facing, all of us, is a certain form of ignorance about ourselves and about what life is all about. And because of that, we're unable to make something great out of it unless we figure that out in time. And if it gets too bad, well, then it might be too late to figure it out after all. Because that is what I told my mom before she passed away. I remember I made her a promise, and that was that I would find a way through which I could share with her how she could become a happier person again, to find joy and happiness again for herself and her life. And you know, sadly, I couldn't fulfill that promise to her, and it hurt me very long, for a very long time. It hurt me deeply. It made me feel like a failure. In a way, it's true that when somebody takes their own life, the people left behind might question themselves and wonder if it was their fault, and I was no exception to that rule. I actually thought it was my fault to a certain extent. I could remember times I wasn't as nice to her just before she passed away, and that it makes you feel like if only I was nice to her, or if only I didn't act like a stubborn teenager like most of us out there at that age of our lives. Well, there's something that I figured out, is that by now the work that I do is helping people. And it helps people who have been suicidal as well. They can actually tell you that personally, that because of what they learned from the ideas that I share through my channel, for example, is that it gave them new hope for their future. They started to realize that they don't have to stay stuck in that dark place. They actually have a power within themselves to change that all around. And that is exactly what I would have suggested my mother as well at this point, if she was still here and if she was still suffering in that manner. I would have at least sat down with her and asked her, besides wanting to take your life, what is it that you really want out of life? You see, when you're in a dark place, it's hard to answer that, isn't it? You might have no answer to that right now. But I think we can agree that one of the important parts is that you want to feel happy again. That's clearly missing, because if you're happy, you wouldn't want to take your life. You would just want to live it. So that's a good question. From that, we can start reasoning, what is happiness mean to you? What is it that brings you happiness to begin with? And again, you might not be able to answer that right away, but it's something you can figure out over time. It's like any other process in life. The answers don't always come right away, but we can grow and expand our minds in the direction of the answer that we seek. And if we do that, we might be able to find renewed hope. You might be able to find new hope for your life and your future, even though you're in a dark place right now. The darkness doesn't define who you are. And again, there's much more to you than meets the eye. And one of those things is the fact that you are a conscious, living individual. And because most people don't want to talk about the pain that they're in, this whole subject has become taboo in our societies. People don't want to talk about suicide. People want to say that people who do that are weak, or that they will burn in hell, or that they're condemned forever by God. I mean, I don't personally believe in any of that. I know that it's just a symptom of our society at large, is that we're not trained and raised on how to actually make something of our lives in the right way. We're placed in a system. Currently you are in one, I am in one, and sometimes that system called society can really do a number on us. We can really lose balance, mentally and emotionally, with our soul essence. We just feel like we're going through a grind that is not fulfilling. A never-ending grind until you finally die, perhaps decades from now. Well, if life is like that all the time, then it's logical to reason you might as well end it right now. That is a logical conclusion to get to, if that is how you feel. But it isn't how you have to feel, is what we're getting at. It doesn't have to be this way permanently for you. Now, this is what I had hoped I could share with my mother as well, is that if she could just change her perception about who she is, who she really is, beyond the identity, beyond that ego identity that is suffering, that is asked to do all sorts of things for society and to just fit in. If we bring the soul of ours to the surface, our unique individualism to the surface, we might be able to make something of our lives in a way that is actually fulfilling from the moment we would have been born. That is what should have been taught to us, until the moment we naturally pass away. Then life would have been a fulfilling journey for us all. But since we're not trained that way, that is where the problem lies. That is exactly where things go wrong, horribly wrong in the world, is that people are more often than not even forced. They feel forced to do stuff that they don't really want to do. What are you going to do about that? The only thing we can do about it is to figure out for ourselves individually how we can create our own happiness. Because you have a mind, and you can use that mind to create your own sort of life. You can create the life you want. You don't have to stay stuck in the darkness, even though it feels like you'll never be able to come out of it. You know why you feel like that? It's because you simply are not aware right now on how you could change it around instantly. But again, these are things that are a process of growth. They happen over a certain period of time. It's like if we look at people who are, for example, successful in life, that usually doesn't happen overnight. And if we want to build our way out of the darkness, out of this sadness, this pain that is in our hearts, it's going to happen over a certain period of time. But the beautiful part about it is that that period of time that it takes is actually the process in which you can learn to heal yourself, to heal the pain that is now causing you such distress. Because perhaps it's because of a trauma from your past, or perhaps something that happened even recently in your world that's causing you to feel the way you're feeling right now. Because nobody just randomly feels suicidal. There's probably stuff in your past that has made you feel this way. And we gotta make peace with it somehow if we want to regain back control of our lives and our destinies. And you know, the pain that I felt after my mom died was not a pain for her, though it is a tragedy at first glance when a person takes their life. If you would take your life, it would be a tragedy for someone out there, even though you might not realize who it would be. The real tragedy at the end is the pain that other people will have to process by such an action. So if you were to do it, the people you leave behind will have to process that pain individually speaking. But at the same time, I realize if people are in such great pain, then in a way, it's also a relief for them to be gone. So what we're getting at here is that I want to tell you right now that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not crazy, you're not weird because you're feeling the way you're feeling. And that's the issue society has as well, is that they want to paint people like this, like there's something wrong with them, horribly wrong, right? No, because you can't control everything in life, and sometimes stuff just gets out of hand. And it's in those periods that we need help and support the most, that we need to listen and keep our minds open for potential ideas and suggestions that can help us out of the darkness in which we find ourselves facing currently. And that is exactly what I hope you will find while you're still here. And I want you to know that there is a way out, even though I don't know your situation specifically. I can't advise you specifically in your situation with the unique circumstances that you're in and that cause you to feel the way you're feeling. But I do know that we all have the same potential. As human beings, we all have a magnificent consciousness, a beautiful imagination through which you can build your way out of your current limitations and sorrows and pain. You can set yourself free by the right use of your own mind. And you know, that might seem overwhelming or too difficult to do right now, because perhaps you're not used to even considering these concepts, and they might seem a little crazy and weird. But I promise you that if you learn to do that, life will start to look so much better for you. You will start to feel joy again, and you realize that you can outgrow the pain that is now holding you back. Because once that happens, you won't feel the way you're feeling right now. You will, in fact, feel a whole lot better about yourself and the future that is still open to you. So I hope you take this to heart and understand. From experience, I know what it's like to lose someone through suicide. And I can tell you one thing, it's definitely not fun. It is a very painful experience that I wouldn't wish on anyone. But at the same time, it taught me great things as well. It led me on a path of work that I probably would not have done had it not happened. Or maybe I would have not done it with the intensity I'm doing it now with my work and projects in life. So I hope you will consider, perhaps with an open mind, to look at the rest of my channel, mostly because there are videos on there that I know that can help people out, no matter what their situation is. And perhaps you find some comfort in the messages we share on this channel, that there is still hope for you. Because usually the issue that people face is that if they can't find the help right away that they feel they need, is they start reasoning then there must be no help at all available ever, or that there might never be anything or anyone that could help or help them out of their situation. But there is a way out. If you just start there with that one concept and keep that in your mind, just entertain that idea. There must be a way out of this pain. I'm a powerful human being. So it takes a lot of power to actually hold on to anything that hurts you emotionally and mentally. Now, if we can redirect that power into positive objects, in positive goals and objectives for ourselves, in this case the objective being going from a place of darkness into a place of happiness and joy again, well then we have something to work towards. And again, you don't have to feel bad that you ended up in this place. And hopefully you realize that there's still much more possible for you than you might have realized up until this point. Because that is sadly what my mom, for example, didn't realize. When she took her life, before she did, she really did feel like there was no purpose any longer to her existence. Everything she tried failed. She did stuff and it seemed like it would fail for her. The thing is, even though stuff fails in life, doesn't mean that it has to be the end of your life. Because more often than not, if stuff fails in life, it's simply an indication that perhaps we're not working in the right direction for ourselves individually, because there's something unique about you. And if that uniqueness comes to the surface, you'll be able to create the sort of life that you want and live life uniquely to your own soul essence. You learn to express your own uniqueness to the world. And that is where you'll find your joy as well, once you get back in touch with that part of yourself. Instead of trying to fit into places that just don't fit with you, we want to learn to listen to our own hearts and let it express in and as our lives. And that is something you can still do, because that pain that you're feeling is not permanent. It's not the only side to you. There's something good and positive about you. I know this. There's something great about you. And people sometimes see that, but perhaps more often than not they don't. But you yourself also know that there has to be something great about you, because you're still here. And hopefully you take this message to heart and consider that there is still hope for you. It might take time, but there's still hope for you. And don't beat yourself up for feeling bad, because it isn't your fault. Not everything is your fault in life. Sometimes things happen that you couldn't control, and now you're in this place. So let's grow out of this place together. You can do this. I believe in you. And with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.